Okay.
November 2025. We start with an audit committee of the Environmental Facilities Corp. First, the roll call would be nice to see if we have a quorum.
Chair Kaczynski,
I'm here.
Director Corcoran,
Here.
Director Zarowski.
I am here.
I note that Director DeMarchi is absent, but you have a quorum for the committee.
Thank you. We have draft minutes from June 26, 2025 that look good to me, but I'll take a motion, then we can just see if anybody wants to make any
So
changes.
moved. Second.
Great. Any discussion, anything you see that was different than reality? No? Great. Okay. All in favor of approving the minutes from June 26th? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain.
Yeah,
Great.
out.
Thank you. We're going to have a quarterly financial reports from Albert. We'd love a presentation and we can talk about it after he goes over the highlights.
Sure. So thank you. So everything, as usual, looking good. Nothing unexpected, which is always what you want in your financials. So the story of everything again is going to be IGIF for this and probably the next few times we speak. And so I'll start with the mid-year update, which is a comparison of our revised budget to actuals through 9/30/2025, which is the middle of our fiscal year. So a few highlights. As usual, our bond financing fees are not linear in their progression throughout the year. We've completed all financings that we currently expect. So we are at 100% of the projection. Admin fees, as usual, New York City pays in June. If they hadn't, would have heard about that by now. So our administrative fees are at 85% of our year-to-date projection. Next, we have a few items that typically happen towards the end of the year. One is our DC support payment and then admin grant revenues. The next thing that is not right on the 50% target is our state assistance payments and our grants dispersed. We've seen an uptick in the past couple of months of grants going out. So at 9/30, we're a little bit below what we expect, but we expect that to catch up by the end of the year. And that was the pattern last year too.
So that's a big, again, that stood out.
Yep.
That it's going to be big.
Yes, it's about 10%. So we're at about 40% of what we expect for the year. But
Right.
I think in October and November, we've seen big numbers and it follows the trend.
Right.
So last year we saw a big jump from where we were at 9/30 to fiscal year end.
Right.
So,
Right.
And it's, that's also dependent on things like funding order, which projects are dispersing. So there's definitely an element of unpredictability, but the best we can do is to follow the trend and go with what we know.
Yep.
Our SRF admin fee expense account, that is something we generally undershoot. These are, essentially grant payments that we pay out of our admin funds. And these are almost always, we almost never hit the full amount, but we project like we're going to hit the full amount to be a little bit conservative.
And so tell us what's the forecast for this year?
So
about the full amount getting
about 1.3 million. And so we're at 216,000 year to date. So we probably will not hit the 1.3, but we still put it in there saying, right, this is, what could potentially go out.
Yep.
Other and final big thing is our project grant revenues, which we expect large draws towards the end of the year is a typical pattern. We've already drawn in roughly, I think 100 million on drinking water, and then we have a good amount in the pipeline for clean water already. It is somewhat New York City dependent. So if New York City, I think we expect to get large drinking water disbursements out to them. So we expect at least a big chunk of what we have in the pipeline to go out. And yeah, everything else is on target. on the financial statements themselves, I always like to flip to the year over year comparisons immediately, because looking at the statements themselves in this form is a little bit, be a little bit tedious. So, our cash and cash equivalents, again, an increase due to the large amounts of funds drawn.
Right.
We also do have, still elevated interest rates.
That's right.
We've kind of expected those to go down, but it hasn't quite happened as,
So interest income,
Yeah, I was gonna say, how does that play in?
right?
Sorry.
Yep. So our interest income would be higher than we probably were thinking about this time last year. Interest expense would be higher,
Right.
subsidy would be higher, that type of thing. So we'll see, you know, the pace of rate cuts is somewhat, they're indicating that, you know, we just had a cut on Wednesday, indicating it's going to slow down. We'll see.
No, and with higher rates, does that drive some people to come to us more?
I would expect
You would
so.
expect.
You know, the benefit of our program.
Yeah, sure. And there's
gets
still higher.
Yeah,
Higher.
so,
Sure.
you know, more, an interest rate subsidy on 5% is way better than
Right.
it is on a 2.5%.
Exactly.
So I would hope it would.
Right. Okay.
Other highlights, accrued interest on cash and investments is higher,
Yes.
kind of expected with our higher cash balances, especially since a lot of that higher cash balances really is in the short term, where, our direct financings are up a pretty significant amount, about 5%. We want to highlight that that's due to IJA long-term closings and then some New York City long-term directs in conjunction with our 2025 C financing. On the income statement, like we just said, interest income on investments is higher. Our bond financing fees, which is deal by deal, slightly lower. Our project grant revenues is down just due to the timing of drawing in funds. And interest income on bonds higher as expected, subsidy higher as expected, and then interest expense. So kind of the things we just touched on. As far as administrative costs, we're about just 2.8% higher than last year, mainly due to a few more staff than last year. So we're kind of right on target with everything else. There are always some timing differences,
Sure.
which might drive a large percentage difference, but the actual dollar amount is relatively small. So like I think like postage is the best example. You know, you see a huge increase,
Right.
but it's because we refill the postage meter, you know, probably once or twice a year. So if we do that before the 9/30, then you know we see a 2,000% increase. But again,
And like the payments, like you said, like,
Yeah.
you know,
yeah,
you're gonna pay.
Yep. So
Just-
fairly immaterial, but noted. Lastly, on the mid-year update and quarterly financials is our investment report, which is our inventory of investments held by the corporation by account and investment type, and then a reconciliation to our general ledger, just to make sure that we're accounting for all of those in our financial statements. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Questions?
Any questions? You know, again, it's sort of, there were some, again, rather dramatic differences from the, you know, expectations. Like you said, a lot of it is timing.
Mhm.
The interest rates are a little higher than we thought. Anything else that maybe we weren't thinking ahead about, or anything unexpected?
I would say things might be different, but not unexpected.
Okay.
I don't think there's anything that we kind of went like that set off any red flags.
Okay.
I think that's the best way to put it. You know, I think in our interest rate forecast, we always want to be on the conservative side, and assume that, you know, we're not going to get as much income as we expect. because when we issue and then finance municipalities, it's largely a pass through. So if we're going to wind up overstating our P&L, it's really going to be because we've projected our interest income from investments too high. So I think that's kind of what, in my head, what I always try to avoid doing, because it's, that would put you in a position where maybe your results are look, better than.
Right. You're also dependent on these counterparties. I'm thinking like these communities, and like, am I wrong? Like the pace they're bringing you're finishing projects, you're getting money out the door. We often have talked about maybe things slower than we wanted, or I'm not hearing that. It almost sounds like things are happening more quickly. Or the same?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the benefits to this program and to IJA, and we'll talk about it a little bit in the budget and financial plan, is that we're able to draw the IJA funds in for non-IJA projects. Right. So we've seen this, huge cash influx, and which is good, and it's a little, as dollars go out the door, we can draw funds in really, really quickly.
Interesting.
But if you look at today's agenda, we have a lot of projects,
That's right.
uh,
Out. Let's go.
the IJA money is hitting the street.
That's right. Good.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Thank you. Great. Awesome. So now we have the draft budget financial plan subject of ID number 1, the board meeting. And it's, again, the first thing we're going to talk about. We need to approve this and move it on to the.
I don't think the mid-year gets.
Okay, great. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, the next one, right, the draft financial.
The proposed financial fiscal year draft budget and financial plan. Okay, got it.
Yep.
So let's talk about that.
So similar themes. The biggest story is, again, it's IJA, and then to a lesser extent interest rates. Like I just said, the IJA, the general supplementals have a universal eligibility, meaning we can draw them in ahead of the IJA grant going out. So that will lead to a large increases in net position on the front end of the program, but on the back end, we're still going to be dispersing the IJA grant. So especially we see this in the clean water program, where it's going to lead to the huge positive gains in net position we've seen, but then that's going to reverse towards the end of the program. So while, if you looked at maybe 28, 29 on clean water, it would look a little like, okay, what's happening? This is an issue. It's really not, because we've already drawn in those funds. So we've already sort of received the benefit, and now we're just paying out the grants associated with the program. The impact for drinking water is similar, but we have a large amount of lead service line funds that are moving out at the door at a slower pace, and also have to be drawn in 1-for-1 with the grants. Because unlike the general supplemental, the projects don't have the universal eligibility, meaning that when the dollars go out the door for that project, we can only draw on that specific project, IJA project. So, overall, the projected amounts for IJA that we're getting at 1.5 in clean water, 1.2 in drinking aren't changing, but there is a timing difference that we're gonna see, and we've been speaking about for the past few years. Changes in net position that we're projecting are really, drawn by IJA cap grant timing, also interest rate coming down a little bit slower than I think we anticipated at this time last year, and probably it's probably saying the same thing last year. On the admin side, we are planning for all scenarios in happening with the federal government. So we're trying to draw in our admin funds sooner rather than later. So you do see big increases in the last year and then in the current year. And then for the out years, we plan to just try to, set it to break even. We still do have some dollars in our back pocket. So we adjust in the plan, we adjust the amount of admin dollars we're taking from our capitalization grants based on what we think we'll need. And there's more we could take, but we plan to have those
Tell us the
dollars.
rules about that, how much what you could take.
So you can take up to, for us, the maximum is 0.2% of the fund's net position.
Yep.
So that winds up being on the clean water side, around $13 million, and the drinking water side, I believe around 3.5 or 4. We're not taking anywhere near that. We're trying to keep it, somewhere between 4 and 6 in the clean water side, and then, see between 1 and 2 on the drinking water side on average. And
But
then,
like you said, we don't know the path ahead
Right.
and what the feds are going to be there for. And
yep. So we've been kind of building up, but I think we're at a very sustainable level where, even in a worst case scenario, we really could sustain for a number of years.
yep.
And if we, it's the beautiful thing about this program. I think if we got,
Right.
if we,
Yep.
got cut off completely from
Yep.
federal funds,
You could just
we could
Revolve.
sustain. Yep. Take more work and more
Sure.
planning, but we could certainly,
Mhm.
it would be okay.
Okay.
And then, other things, so the future years I mentioned, you'll see, we do see some negatives in the clean water, program. But everything else, isn't, and those are planned and understood. And we, not a concern. Then,
Let me ask you on that. For the out years, they're hard. I mean, it's
yeah,
tougher now. Do you have like an alternate scenario where the feds stop doing what they're doing and I don't know, just a different look?
yeah. So from a financial statement perspective, it becomes, it probably becomes frankly easier to predict because one of our grants that we disperse are based on the cap grants we get. There's a minimum and a maximum additional subsidization based on the grant. So if we stop getting the grants, then the SRF grants aren't going to be there. So that variability sort of goes away. And then it's, projecting a loan portfolio, which, the nice thing about lending is it's predictable. Your
With the-
current portfolio is predictable.
Would the federal rules and regs still be in charge because it was started as federal money?
Yes. So we still have, and
They would still have oversight and
Henrik can correct me if I'm wrong, but we still have to,
Abide by-
the rules of
Still
SRF.
has to.
even if they didn't give you anything new.
Yes, correct. So even recycled dollars still have program rules that
I got
we have to follow. And administrative dollars still have rules they have to follow, even if we don't draw them from the cap grant. So even if we're generating them from fee income
I
on
see.
loans,
It's
we
still
still have rules and regs we have to follow.
It all has to be for water quality purposes.
you'd of course have to invest in crypto, but
We're not permitted, no.
No,
interesting. Okay, good.
I would be very nervous if we were, even if we're allowed to do that, it would be.
Oh my
nervous.
God, stop it.
Absolutely.
Everybody's
Don't go there.
Sorry. Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, looking forward, I think, like you said, the biggest changes from the projections would probably be, if interest rates do something unexpected, or, if the timing of the cap grant draws are, is different than expected.
Albert, if I heard you right earlier, right, you think the hedge, for lack of a better term, or the contingency plan on interest rates is conservative assumptions going in, right? Is that how you, or is it
Yeah,
something
that's
else
kind
you
of
would
my-
be thinking about?
Yeah, I would rather undershoot than overshoot because the biggest impact on our net position is going to be from investment income.
No, but I was asking you just mentioned that's a potential contingency that interest rates do something unexpected, and I think we all understand the premise of that. Are you thinking about a separate hedge or contingency or an insurance against that, or is it baked in your view, to the more conservative approach you were describing earlier?
We don't have, so I don't think we would not have any financial products that I believe we're allowed to invest in. That
I
would
didn't mean financial hedge, I meant strategic or whatever, but
Okay.
don't
All
say
right.
hedge in its literal sense. I meant address the risk.
Yeah, so I think what we've thought about is if it looks like rates are going to drop and that we feel very solid in that forecast, we would start investing out further. It's something, and locking in the current higher rates. I think we've done that to a certain extent with, when we did our committed subsidy financings. And then, we've talked about doing it on the admin side too. Like especially if our federal grants go away, in a worst case scenario, and we don't have that, the ability to take more in admin if we were ever needed to, we would certainly, look to, extend the sort of duration of our investment portfolio.
Thank you. Yeah, so if, I'll take a motion. I think we didn't do the motion yet, did we? Maybe we did. I don't know. We'll take a motion
No, we didn't.
to approve that sort of to approve this, moving on to the board agenda.
So moved.
I'll second, Mr. Chairman.
Great. All in favor of moving this onto the board agenda? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Excellent. No more business of this committee. I'll take a motion to adjourn. And a second.
Aaron.
I think I heard them both.
So moved. Second.
Awesome. We're adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Albert.
Absolutely.
Great.